Yes.
Okay. Can you guys hear him now?
I cannot.
If you're joining us and you can hear us, welcome, welcome, welcome. We're just doing a quick countdown. We're doing some sound checks, making sure everybody's stuff is working right. So hang on in there. And we're going to be coming on live real soon. Real soon. Hey, Dorsey Sr. Pono, did you see if Dorsey Sr. signed on?
Yes, he is.
Awesome. And you can see him, but still cannot hear?
Nah, he's not showing up on the volume.
How do we fix that? Well, this is a mystery to me. Pono, in the section where you see visitors, guests, does it say on-air audio?
Yeah, it's showing that he's muted.
Okay, so I think we're almost there. Dorsey Sr., it says that you are muted. So what you're going to want to do is there should be a little microphone button on your side. Go ahead and click that, and it should unmute you. How's it coming? Is he still muted?
Yeah, it's still muted.
Okay. We're moving in the right direction. Moving in the right direction. And he's still muted right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Elder Dorsey, if you can try to unmute. I want to thank Jillian for filling us in on our tech. Yes, my friends, we're messing around with tech to make sure it's up. Sorry, we're shorting just a little bit late, but we promise we're gonna get in here real soon. We want to make sure you can hear all of our participants today. So hang on in there, give us 3 more minutes, and we're gonna work this out. Elder Dorsey Sr., if you cannot unmute by pushing the mute button, go ahead and hang up and call back in. Actually, Pono, go ahead and just hang up on Elder Dorsey. Elder Dorsey, just call us back. Just click on that link again as soon as Pono releases you. Go ahead, Pono, and release him. Hope you're enjoying these grooves just before we get rocking here. We're going to be with 3 generations of Dorseys. Steve Dorsey III told me this is his favorite song in the whole world, so I thought I'd play it for him. Welcome on to Tuesday Tea Time.
By far.
Thanks.
By far.
By far. Thanks for your patience, everybody. We're going to get this right. Pono, did Elder Dorsey Sr. sign in?
He is in right now. It's saying that he's in
Awesome.
the guest room, the green room.
Okay.
But it's muted.
It's still muted.
Mm-hmm.
Mercy. Elder Dorsey, if you can hear me, try to find the mic, the little microphone icon. It's a little white one. It says mute on it, and click on that and see if that pulls you off of the mute.
So he said he keeps hitting unmute, but it still stays muted.
But it still stays muted.
He's got an unmutable mute.
Is he still using the headset?
No.
Oh,
I'm baffled.
yeah. I'm not sure.
A whole year of this, and I've troubleshot? Is that how you say it? Everything.
Troubleshot, maybe. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like troubleshooting is
While I was live, off, before, after, during, and this one's tricky. I don't know what I can tell you. I can't.
All right, here we go.
Well, you know what? Let's see some faces and let's get on this, and we'll talk as we go, my friends. Welcome, everybody. I know you've been listening in to us and some of this background stuff, but now you know the efforts it takes to make sure that some of this stuff is working right so that you can enjoy the contents. So thanks for coming on. If you appreciate the hard work we do around here to make sure it goes right, go ahead and hit that like button, share, subscribe, follow, do whatever else you have to do. We appreciate that. And I promise you, every week, we're going to bring out some content that's refreshing and yummy just for you. If this is your first time on, welcome on. My name is Icky Timey. This is Tea Time on Tuesday. And we're still trying to get the sound situation correct here. Today, though, we are chilling with 3 generations of Jesus lovers. These handsome, intelligent, faithful, God-fearing men of the Lord happen to be related. Lawrence S. Dorsey Sr., Lawrence Dorsey II, and Steve Dorsey III are here today. Yes, my friends, they're here today. And 2 of them may be taken, but 1 of them is still out on the market. They're going to share with us their generational experiences in the faith as African-American men, in their families, in their churches, and what this journey might look like for them. And this is how we're going to celebrate Black History Month. We're going to kick it off with these guys. So I'm really thankful that they joined us. We are still working on Dorsey Sr.'s sound. So hopefully you'll be able to hear him soon. You will see him just like we see him, but we're working on his audio. Now, just before we move on to that, I do want to do our Say Hello campaign. If you have an opportunity, go on to www.scc.adventist.org/say hello and sign in. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Send us a photo. We'd love to put you out into the world. So our person we're saying hello to today is Jillian Lutz. Now, you're all pretty familiar with Jillian's name because Jillian is usually on here running amok with some awesome commentaries, being engaging. But today I want to say hello to her. She's our Say Hello candidate. She is from the West Covina Seventh-day Adventist Church. She is the associate pastor there. She wanted to create more spaces for community, both in her own life and in her church. And she wants to encourage all of her members to get connected. Jillian, thank you so much for reminding us that the greatest part of church is being able to connect to God and connect to each other. So make sure you go on to our Say Hello campaign and sign up. We'd love to share your story and say hello to your face one of these days. Next week, I don't have the graphic for it. I forgot to shoot it over to our guy Pono. Shout out to you, Pono. Thank you. He is producing again this week from a distance, and he's running all of our stuff. He's making sure our tech sound is going correctly. Thank you, Pono. You the man. Okay, next week, I've got the awesome privilege of hanging out with Simeon Shig. He's an author, a husband, a father, a musician, a CFO. He just recently dropped a book called Manners from the Moon. Check it out on Amazon. It's a 5-star kids book. If you have a kid or if you are working with children, it's a phenomenal book, 5 stars. He's going to be joining us and talking about his journey and, of course, the impetus of writing his book, because he had just had his own little kid, his own child, a daughter, Brooklyn, a few years ago. So you're not going to miss out on that. But now, let's get down to hanging out with these gorgeous men.
This dude.
Right. What's up, fellas? What's going on?
Hey, good afternoon, Icky. Thank you for making me feel good.
I'm just telling the truth, man. I'm all about truth around here. Now, we've got all of us on here, and everyone is looking great. Unmuted. I just want to see. Oh, did I hear? I just heard somebody. Was that Dorsey Sr.? Was that you?
I'm muted. I see it moving. That's
there you go.
Amen. Yes.
Ooh, man.
That was bug crazy.
The mute button is a liar. We moved past it. Thank you, Jesus. So let's start here, guys. What are you drinking today? What are you sipping on? Tell us. I'm going to start with Senior since I can hear you, and I'm afraid your voice might go away. So I want to hear, what are you drinking?
Well, since it's tea time, I have green tea from my Lion cup.
Oh, extra points for that cup.
Extra point.
Lawrence, what are you drinking?
I got myself a little Thai tea this afternoon. Nice and cold, sweet.
Oh, so good. And Steve, what are you drinking, my bro?
So, I mean, I feel kind of basic now, but I just got some water with some lime in it. It's great. It does the job. Wonderful.
Look, it's all in the way you pronounce it, my bro. You listen, young buck. You got to be able to roll with the big dogs. You got to call it limon, so that we're all
limon.
We give you a little respect. Limon. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Got it.
Thank you everybody for joining us. If you're watching, feel free to drop some comments, ask some questions, and do as we usually do as we engage here. Make sure you do that because obviously I'm not watching the comments from this side this week. So in order for me to see them, Pono's going to have to push them out there, and then we'll engage with those. I want to start here, though. If you're just joining us, we are with 3 generations of Dorsey men. I want to start by asking you all. Let's start with the name, okay? I just want to clear this up in public before everyone so we know what's up with this. Now, Dorsey Sr., your name is Lawrence S. Dorsey Sr.
Correct.
And your son's name is Lawrence S. Dorsey II.
Correct.
And his son's name is, you guessed it, Lawrence S. Dorsey III.
That's right.
Just, first of all, has anybody ever been confused by this?
Yes, the conference.
All the time.
Yes.
Now, Dorsey Sr., does that mean every so often you get 2 checks?
I wish it was that way, but he's the one that gets the checks because the 2 is behind his name.
Oh, okay. Very good. Very good. And I want to ask, is there, from you gentlemen, is there context behind this? Is there a story? I actually think it's quite beautiful to be able to share this platform with 3 generations of men who share the same name. Actually, there's a lot of power and beauty in that. So let me start with Lawrence. Lawrence, tell me, is there a story or context from your perspective on this?
Well, definitely. Growing up, I was Little Lawrence for the longest time. Then I started growing, and then we switched off, and I became Steven. And so I was Steven, and that was the distinguishing factor. When my wife Nicole and I, when we knew we were having a boy for our second child, we thought of a bunch of different nicknames, but we had to figure out what to call him because none of those worked. And so he had to drop the N, and he's Steve. So we've got it all distinct where my dad is dad or grandpa. I'm usually Steven, truth be told. I know how you know me, whether it's Steven or Lawrence. Yeah. And Steve is just Steve, even though he is the third. So it works out for everyone. The only correction for me would be it's never Junior. Never Junior.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are watching, there are no juniors on this show today. There's no juniors here.
None.
Excellent. Oh, sweet. Okay, let's do this. No, go ahead. Go ahead, George.
He didn't want that junior for anything, and I didn't want a junior either. Junior, mini-me, that just doesn't work, So that's why we made it a second. He's a full-scale replica.
There we go.
Something about junior has a diminishing feel to it, doesn't it?
Right. Yes.
Well, I've got to say, also in ministry, I found that at times when people use it, they're one, assuming a paternal relationship with me, and two, trying to put me possibly, I can't assume for them, in my place in their conversations with me. So it has a lot of connotation there, but for the most part, it's just not on my birth certificate. So my mama named him Clay, I call him Clay. Lawrence and Beverly named me the second, so that's what it is.
Right. Well, I tick all of those boxes for truth, bro. There are people who want to paternalize their relationship with you in your professional space, whether you're a pastor or a teacher, and while that's okay, it may not necessarily be appropriate at that moment. Another box you can tick off is using that as some way of diminishing you as a person. And thirdly, that's not your name. So let's not call you that. I'm talking to myself. I'm not going to call you that ever again.
You call me L, so you never had that problem.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to keep moving here. Guys, by a show of hands, I'm going to go through a few things on this list and just pop your hand up if this is you, okay? Who of you grew up in Southern California? If you grew up in Southern California, just raise a hand. All right. One of you did. Did any of you attend or are attending an HBCU? If you did, raise a hand. All right. One. Okay, there it is. Okay. Are any of you a pastor? Any of you a pastor? Pastors? All right. Yeah, okay. 2 of you pastors. All right. Are any of you Lakers fans? If you're a Lakers fan, go ahead and throw your hand up. Lakers fans? Any Lakers fans? Okay. Haters. I got haters on the show today. Okay. Move on. If you've ever experienced the bitter sting of racism in the world around you, just a hand raised there. Hand raised. Anybody? Okay. Good. Experience the bitter sting of racism in church. Have you experienced it in church? Anybody? Okay. Oh, yeah. That's what we're talking about. There is a man with some experience there, my peoples. Woo, there it is. Okay. Fantastic. So let's dive in a little bit to some of these things. One more. Are any of you hopeful about the future of our church? If you are, let me just see your hand. See who's pretty hopeful about where we're headed. Okay, cool. Good. All right. Dorsey Senior, I want to start with you. What was your coming to faith story? Because as I've heard it, you're first generation Adventist. Is that correct?
That's correct. First generation Adventist. Never went to church before in my life until I met my wife, and she introduced me to the Adventist message. My mother, she taught me about God. She read to us about the Bible. We didn't know it then, but when we were little, she used to read us the bedtime stories from those Adventist Cole Porter who left those 10 books, Bible stories.
Yeah, yeah.
And from Christmas to Easter, she used to read each night Desire of Ages for us, and it was
Wow.
from Christmas all the way through. But we didn't make the connection. But when I met my wife, and
You saw the
the
light.
first we saw the light, but it was comical. We went out on the first day. It was on Wednesday night. Then we went out again. This is the week before Christmas. We went out on Thursday night, and then on Friday night, I said, well, come on, let's go. I'm taking you somewhere else. She said, no, no, no. She said, you can come over. So
Hey.
when I got over to the house, her mother said, you're here late anyway, and it's Sabbath. Look what time it is. Because I got there like about 6 o'clock, and the sun had already set. And I'm like, Sabbath? I said, oh, no. Don't tell me this beautiful, fine girl is a religious fanatic, because everybody knows the Sabbath is Sunday.
Got him.
And
Coach.
that night, they gave me a Bible study. We stayed up till about 1 o'clock over there about the Sabbath and all. That was it. It was Bible, and that was true. So,
Hey, hey, the Lord works in wonderful ways.
Yeah.
Now, before then, prior to then, Dorsey Sr., were you going to church at all? Was there any affiliation with Christianity?
No, we didn't go into church. No. Like I said, my mom read to
Wow.
us about the Bible. What happened, my mom was raised partially by Episcopalian church because she was in like a home for the church. And she said because of the way they treated her, she said she wanted us to know about God, but not institutionalized religion. And she wanted us to be able to, when we got older, to make our choice for a denomination. But, we believed in God. We prayed. She taught us to pray, but we didn't go to any church. And, coming up as, in the 60s, I was a little militant, to put it mildly. And I had a problem against preachers per se born in New York, Queens. These preachers driving their Cadillac and, they have all the gold and whatever. And the people are all on the bus and living in the projects. And I was like, those preachers, I could do something with them, and it wasn't praying. But so I thought some of them were, they were to me, I couldn't go with them. And even with Martin Luther King, I believe he was an honest man, but back then I was not into that nonviolent thing. I was more of a any means necessary type kind of guy. But I learned a lot with Christ. You can get anything done through Christ. So I'll just leave that.
That's right. That's right. Now, where did you actually grow up?
In Queens, New York.
Queens. Got it. Lawrence, how did you come into ministry? I mean, obviously you were born and you're second generation, at least from your dad's side, right? So following in ministry, that's an interesting calling. How did that call come to you?
It wasn't something that I was interested in at all. I'd spent 4 years at Oakwood College, wasn't Oakwood University yet. And I was a history, political science major minor. And it wasn't until about a year or so out of school that I understood my call to ministry. And I returned back in 1999 as a theology student.
Wow. Was there a striking moment where you were like, whoa, God, okay, I hear you calling me? Was it like that, or was it something that was more soothing that just subtly kind of rolled out?
No, it wasn't subtle at all. It was probably the most difficult summer I've ever experienced in my life.
Now you've made us taste of the fruit, bro. You gotta tell us a little bit about it.
Well, it started off just I was never home before, and so I had to be home, and I had to go to worship, and I had to be at church on time. I hadn't been home for so long, and every time I got to church, my dad was covering 3 churches at the time. When I would get to church, I kept hearing, a voice in my head telling me about what I could do and what I should do, and how this is an opportunity for me to understand things. And I thought I was going crazy at first. And then there was a young man that came to my dad's church, and he told a story about a guy named Michael with a dress holding a sword that is asking him to come fight with him. And I'm hearing my dad say this, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this kid understands what I'm going through, even though I didn't know necessarily that it was Christ like that. And so my dad tells me the story, just passing, but I was like, hey, but what'll happen if he says no? Right. And so then he said, he could say no, he could be saved, he could have a wonderful life, but he'll never find a fulfillment in that calling. There's something to answering the call that he's just going to miss. And it was about a week later, I said out loud during family worship that I think the Lord is calling me to ministry. And I don't know of a time where I've had more weight taken off my shoulders and off my mind ever in my life.
Ooh, when we are living to our calling, man, something about it, no matter how hard that calling is, it is freeing, isn't it?
Absolutely. It was amazing. It seemed like everything was going to get more difficult, but actually everything got extremely easier.
Yeah, I just want to pause right now, and anybody who's watching along, if you've been getting an inkling of God's calling for your life, the further you run, the harder it is, the more burdensome it is for your life, man. Just lean into what God has called you to and take it on full charge. It's going to lighten your life a lot. That's a great testimony, Lawrence. Thank you. Steve, go ahead.
I like to just say this too. As we look at our family, we have had some experience with some supernatural things that have kind of led us in this way. And I just want to just say this with my calling ministry. I had an experience on May 26, 1976 with a supernatural event where the Lord delivered me from individuals who were into witchcraft and a coven. And on that night when the Lord saved me, I didn't know what the Lord wanted me to do. But in September of that same year, I was passing out tracts where I used to party and with the people there. And I had a friend of mine come up to me who hadn't seen me. And he said, Dorsey, where you been? Where you been? Don't see you at the party. We don't see you anymore. I said, well, I'm with the Lord now. I'm with my wife. Everything is going well. I said, I wish I could do this full time. And as soon as I said this is in Wall Street, downtown Manhattan. All of downtown Manhattan went on mute. And I heard the Lord say to me, you can, if you're willing to sacrifice, go to Oakwood. Now, here's the thing. I didn't even know where Oakwood was, but I knew that day that the Lord wanted me to go to ministry. And I came home and I told that to my wife. And, I had a really good job. I used to work on microwave and satellite telephone systems. And when I told that to my wife, she just looked at me and she didn't look surprised. And I said, honey, why? What's the matter? You're not surprised? And she said, well, the Lord told me when I married you that you were going to be a preacher, but I said, this I got to see. and that was it. And that started the ministry train, what we do.
Man, isn't it it's just amazing how we get privy to the moment of what God is doing. But as you look across the time span, you get to see a greater picture of what he had in store. I mean, just to see your own son go into ministry and then watch the legacy of that being reborn into your grandson, and just seeing how faith may look different in each generation, but it's still the same God who's doing the same. Yeah. That's fantastic. Steve, I want to come back to you, man. And now there was a question that came out. Where were you born? So just real quick, Dorsey Sr. and Lawrence, where were you both born?
New York.
Queens, is that correct? New York. Lawrence, where were you born?
The only city in the world, Queens, New York.
We'll forgive your heresy here on Tuesday. This one time. Now, Steve, I want to turn to you. Steve, you've been listening long enough. I want to ask you, did you feel it? I'm assuming that you're not going into ministry, correct? What major are you taking right now?
So that is a compound question, actually. Imagine knowing both of their stories and still deciding to pull a Jonah. That is basically what I did. I guess stubbornness also comes with the name. So I'm currently a psychology major, but I have a minor in religious studies. And
Oh, that's how the Lord
path,
works. You see that?
yeah, see, but that's the end of the story, man. The process getting there was tough. So to answer your first question in terms of the pressure, I would say, being generous, 5% of that pressure came from my father and grandfather. You know, and it really wasn't even pressure. It was almost an inherent expectation, right? But the other 95%, God bless their hearts, but from the saints of God at the churches my dad would pastor at, the rest of the pressure would be coming from them. You know, I could read a small verse. It could be Jesus wept. And, you know, he'd pull me aside and it'd be like, oh, yes, you see, and that is why, young man, you're going to go into the ministry.
Right.
And don't get me wrong. To be compared to those two guys on the screen that I'm with, legends. I see them as legends. So it's flattering, right? But my problem was it felt as though the choice was being taken out of my hand. It was as if I didn't, you know, what about the stuff I want to do? What about, right? And that train of thought would only pass with time because at that moment in my life, and granted, everyone's an angsty teenager at that point. So
yeah, for sure.
Anything could move you on, right? But I was viewing ministry as a very static calling, right? When in reality, you three know this. It's so dynamic. It is so dynamic. And, you know, I thought I needed to throw psychology to the side and do ministry full time, when in reality, oh my goodness, you can diversify the ministry so much with psychology. Arguably, you can diversify the most with psychology, right? So as soon as that clicked in my head, granted, took about 3 years, but as soon as that got into my head, you know, I viewed it as they're two in the same. And so I, as we said in the beginning, I'm not at an HBCU, I'm at La Sierra University, but the religion department and the psychology department, dude, the synthesis I'm able to do with those classes, it is a new type of religious education that we do need for a new generation of, you know, my generation. We kind of need more, not fact-based, but it's awesome to be able to talk about the anatomical benefits that things like prayer and meditation do, in addition to explaining prayer and meditation are great for our spiritual life. So yeah, as soon as I was able to look at ministry as a dynamic calling, things got a lot easier.
Whew, hey, that's the word, bro. So eloquent. Has anyone ever told you, by just listening to you talk, that maybe you should think about ministry? No, I'm playing with you. Yeah.
Straight up, would not do any public speaking. Yeah.
The way you said Jesus. Ooh, you should be a pastor. You thought about me? Fantastic, man. Fantastic. No, totally understandable, and absolutely, ministry and the calling that God has for us is so dynamic. That if we force it into a box, it wouldn't breathe the same kind of life it needs to into the world that we live in. In today's world, we need a lot of breath of God. So we got to be careful not to box that down. So let's talk about the expectations of growing up. Yes.
Real quick, do you remember a couple of meetings ago, I think maybe 2 years, where we had an event and Ty Gibson was there, and in one of his presentations, he talked about the fact that mental health is going to be one of the leading needs for ministry as we go forward, and we see that going around all the time. So I'm looking at some of the things that he's involved in, and you know, I've just got to say, I don't want to turn this into a flattery fest, but to have that legend ahead of me, because the things that my dad has been able to accomplish in New York and California and Haiti and Africa and all these places, and then to sit down and listen to some of the plans that my son has and the things that he has going on, I'm just so thankful that I could be a part of their thinking and the thinking of other individuals that are looking to push forward this truth that we have.
Absolutely, man. It's mind-blowing. And I love that you said that, because to be able to push that crux onto the next generation and recognize that God has a leaning for them, that he's got a mantle for them. And it may not look like mine, but it's theirs. I mean, that's powerful. It gives me goosebumps just thinking about what you said, man. That's great. My daughter, she likes art. She wants to be an artist. Somebody pray for my child. I mean, but God has a calling for each of us, and that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. Hey, everybody, thank you so much for responding and putting out there. Yes, absolutely. Keep dropping in the comments, because we get to see them once they pop up here. I want to talk about the expectations of growing up in a pastor's house. Now, there's expectations on kids. They call them PKs, pastor's kids. And we know the reputation of a pastor's kid, right? We've all got that kind of, there's jokes that go about us all the time, pastor's kids. But there's also a high expectation of fathers, of being a dad in the same community as well. So let's talk about this. I want to start with Steve, since we ended with Steve. Steve, tell us, how hard was that on you to be a pastor's son, to be a part of that kind of home?
We are the far and few in between. I think looking back at it, the pastors and family retreats where I would be with other PKs, those would be amazing, if only to be around other PKs. But again, I think my father, he did a great job early on explaining how, for example, at convocation, for instance, everyone is always looking to, I'll tell your father blank. And my father instilled in us, hand them the phone. If they really want to talk to me or talk to your mom, hand them the phone, and then we go from there. So the expectation, at least from an adult perspective, it really wasn't there. Now, in terms of as a peer, it was a little higher, because, we have these preconceived notions on what constitutes a pastor's kid. It's either the off the wall partier or the Bible basher. So in high school, you grow up with everyone, so they know you and they know your temperament. But as soon as I got to La Sierra, right, you're kind of starting over, and everyone's almost like feeling you out. It's like, which one are you? Am I going to see you at this party, or are you going to say I'm going to hell? I don't know. So I try and live my life
That's right.
as such, where it's right down the middle, Hopefully people, just dispel those expectations and preconceived notions. But yeah, in terms of pressure, growing up, it wasn't that bad in the church, at least.
So what I hear you saying is, and tell me if I'm correct or not, that because of the way your parents shielded and took care of you and prioritized you, there wasn't as big of a pressure on you to act up or be a certain way.
No. And I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention them, my siblings as well, because and my cousin Christopher. So we were always 99% of the time together. So we acted we were all buffers for each other. Now, did I still take it upon myself, like I needed to defend our name sometimes and, not be super rambunctious at those settings? Yes. But I eventually grew out of it, and my brother can attest to that. But yeah, siblings and cousins, great buffers too.
Well, I've had the privilege of watching both you and your bro going through high school, and I've always been very impressed by the kind of people you were. Not showboat, but not like one of these perfection kind of human beings. Just very like a sense of like ease and confidence about who you are, and not overestimation of that. And it actually had a real effect on other kids around you there in the high school. So kudos to you, or to your dad and mom, or to whoever that did, but good work. I want to go to Dorsey Senior, actually, because I'm going to come back to Lawrence, because Lawrence, you got to be a father and a son in that position. But Dorsey Senior, what was the expectation like? Was there pressure on you of having to be this pastor / father to your kids? What was that like?
To me, that was an easy balance, because family is first. my first church I was in for 5 years, and then I was elected a conference evangelist. And I did a lot of evangelistic crusades all through. I was in Northeastern Conference then, all through that territory and overseas. But we always had the family and part of ministry. Like I told you, my wife brought me in. She was my Bible worker and singing evangelist. Stephen, as he got older, he became my sound man, made the tapes. Allison, she worked with her mom with sound, um, music. So it was, family ministry is our family business. That's what we do. And when we would finish back then in those days, we would do series every summer. We're talking like not 5 weeks, 8 weeks, 7 weeks. And when we would finish our evangelistic series, we would go down to Florida. We had a timeshare down there, and the kids, I guess they knew Mickey and Donald all by name because we would go and we'd spend that time together. So we tried to kept that bond in. I didn't let people dictate to me about my kids. There was no way, and surely Beverly wasn't going to allow that. The kids were protected, and I see that in Steve the way he is. I see that in his brother Nicholas. Nicholas is the quiet one. You know him. Then we got
Yep.
Lena. She's the princess, and Christopher. He's at Oakwood. This is his last year. So I look at the family business, and Steve might be doing psychology and religion. Chris might be doing communications and religion. Selena sings like an angel. My goodness, if you ever hear her sing. And Nicholas, he's gonna go with his cousin and his brother. So I think we're gonna have 3 more preachers in the Adventist church sooner or later. I mean, I'm not putting any pressure on him. I never put pressure on my son because you can't do ministry unless God calls you to do ministry. But I just wanted to be an example for them as a pastor and a father. I didn't want them to think that I put the church ahead of them. I hope.
Yeah.
And son, you tell me.
It's a temptation, right?
You tell me.
I mean, it happens to all of us.
How I took care of my family. I did
Absolutely.
go. I did preach. I preached all over the world, but I always took care of my family.
Ooh, that's a word. Stephen, what do you have to say about that? Because you've been in the position of a son, and you are now in the position currently of a dad as a pastor.
Yeah. It's a situation that you have to try to manage, because my dad is right. He did a wonderful job like that. It's one of the reasons why there's so many other pastors' kids that always wanted to hang out with us because of the relaxed nature of things. I think one of the turning points for me was there was such a pressure cooker in my inception of working here in Southern California Conference, and I had to start making decisions early on about my family. As being my number one church, and I had to really stick to it. And I remember when I was in ordination, I was on my ordination track, and you remember those meetings, Icky, right? And it would say if you miss a meeting, how problematic it would be, and it was all these different things. And at the time, Gerard Kimney was in charge of it. And at Glendale, they had this thing where I forget what it's called, Steve, where it's like the Olympics, mini Olympics, and I was there for Selena's mini Olympics. I was there for Steve's mini Olympics, and then the third mini Olympics for Nicholas. It had gone a little late because they didn't think they were going to have it, and I had a preordained meeting coming up, and I was struggling, and I was saying, "Oh my goodness, I already have so many markers and flags about what's going on with how I got into ministry." I said, "But this is my son." And Nick, Nick does speak a lot, even though everyone thinks he's quiet. He was looking at me as he was trying to figure out what was going to happen, and I decided to stay. And they finished up, and by the time they finished, I got back to the meeting, and Elder Kimene asked what happened. And as I was explaining it to him, he paused and said, "Hold on, do you need to get back there? Or is it finished?" And I was like, Elder, it's finished, and I apologize. And he let me know. He said, "Let me tell you something. Don't ever apologize for picking your family first." He's like, "The church is going to be there, and you're going to have opportunities to do things, but you need to make sure it's okay when he said, "There's no way in the world you could have left your son out there like that." And so the Lord has blessed me to be at churches at every phase of my children's development. There's been something there. I was at university and they had the best children's ministry when they were younger. I switched to Compton and we had the biggest preteen and teenager ministry, and they were there. I switched to Normandy, and Normandy had a mechanism and a structure that I was able to never miss a basketball, volleyball, basketball, flag football game. And now I've moved on to Altadena, and there's no more kids in the house except COVID, but there's no more kids in the house, and so the Lord has blessed and got me to here. And so it's always been something that's been very important to Nicole and I in making sure that they're able to develop in a way that they can get the most potential out of what God has given them.
Man, that's fantastic. I just saw that Katie asked a question about some tips for being a parent, parenting a pastor's child, because congratulations to Katie and Pono, they're having a baby. So that's wonderful for you guys. I think you heard some great practical examples right here from these guys about what you can do. Prioritize, love your kids well, make sure that you've got time with them, and make sure that they know that they are your first church. So let's keep pushing forward because our time is almost done. Granted, we started a little late because we had to get some of our tech stuff together. So we're going to run a little late today, my friends. I want to invite you to stay with us because we're still going to get to talking about generational stuff. That's coming up next. But as we get there, I do want to ask you guys, we're going to do our 3, 2, 1 tips. The first one is I want to ask for 3 tips on how to pass faith on to the next generation. What are 3 tips you could give us on how to pass faith in a healthy way to the next generation? We know that right now we are losing our young adults, some of our teenagers. So somewhere along the way, there's no translation of a healthy faith. So I want to ask for 3 tips from you guys. What's 3 practical things people can do to help pass faith on in a healthy way to the next generation? But since there are 3 tips, I'm going to ask one from each of you. All right. Lawrence, would you share the first one, and then Dorsey Senior, you, and then we'll end with Stephen. Can you give us a tip how to pass faith to the next generation in a healthy way?
First one, the one that I think is most important is authenticity. We've got to be authentic. Got to be authentic because we've done things as a church at times where we'll say the Bible said so, and it's not in the Bible. Or Spirit of Prophecy said that, and it's not really in Spirit of Prophecy. That's not what Ellen White meant. That's not what she was directing it towards. And so in this generation, one of the things that you find is that they demand authenticity because they can just look things up anyway. So why just cut them out from having to look it up by going ahead and putting together the correct information? And even if the correct information is, I don't know, I got to figure that out and find out myself when they ask a great question. But authenticity is important.
Wow. That was fantastic. Okay. Dorsey Senior, can you give us a practical tip on how to pass faith on in a healthy way to the next generation?
Okay. To me, that's really simple. You have to live it. Your kids have to see it. Your wife has to see it. When the crisis comes in the family, they have to see it. They have to know that when things are going astray and things are going wild, that you're calm. You trust the Lord, you pray, you deal with situations knowing that God, who you've been preaching about, and they hear you telling other people about and going to encourage other folks and lifting them up. They have to see it in you. And if you do that, that'll keep the family strong and their faith will grow. Faith comes by hearing, not only hearing it, but seeing it. Because when you're inside that home, the doors are closed, the church members aren't there. They see the real you, who you are. And you have to let them see Jesus in you. We just finished with a family crisis. I mean, I was diagnosed with cancer and we dealt with that. And how I dealt with it, it encouraged my family. God blessed it. I'm cancer-free now, but that happened in August. But through that whole thing, I just kept steady. My trust in God. I went about everything. I didn't go to pieces. I didn't go crazy. I just stayed steady. And then when everything came to a point where I could let them know, and I let them know, and by being calm, it kept them calm. And by showing faith, it increased their faith. And God has blessed us, and it's gone. It's up 100% out. The surgery went well. I'm recovering. Things are doing okay. But you have to live it. How many times do we stand in the pulpit and we say, yeah, you have to be strong like Job. You have to be able to stand up. But when it hits us, some people go to pieces. But if you don't live it, if you don't know it, if you don't know God yourself, you can't do that. But if you know it, and then your kids can say, well, it's going to be all right. They can go to sleep because they see that you can sleep because your hand is in God's hand. So you just have
Very
to live
good. Fantastic. So the first one was authenticity. The second one, if I'm hearing you correctly, Dorsey Sr., is modeling, to live that faith so that others can experience it through your actual life. Not just be a faithful church person, but be a faithful person. We got a lot of people who act faithful at church, but then the rest of their life look crazy. You got to be that. You got to be that, not just from sundown to sundown.
Right.
There we go. Good.
Meddling
good,
now,
fantastic.
Icky. You meddling now. Now leave that alone.
Okay, Steve, would you close us out with a third tip on how to pass a healthy faith to the next generation?
I would say the key to passing on a healthy faith to the next generation lies with inclusivity. Yeah, I can't say that enough for our generation. It's unfortunate, but if we're being honest, people are looking for more reasons not to join the church than to join the church. We have most people in my age bracket, identifying as spiritual, which is not bad at all, but just going to a more ambiguous relationship with the Lord. And so much can be solved. And this has probably come from, being an RA. You meet so many different types of people, but by people just thinking, you'll hear what they have to say. By you just being that ear, so much of the work is done because you're laying that groundwork to eventually, if it gets to, talking about their faith and things of that nature, it's already laid. And I would argue listening to their life in general, that's spiritual care too. That's doing that spiritual work. So if we can just be inclusive to all walks of life, just that would make things much easier, and it would encourage people for faith in the next generation.
Wow, that was very good. So the three was authenticity, modeling, and inclusivity. I don't know if you've all thought about this, but that's a fantastic selling book right there. So one of you needs to write this book and put it out, and it's going to be a top seller. And for those of you listening along, if you're trying to work on how you're going to be passing on your faith to the next generation or to those around you, these three is great. We're going to go to two tips on how to not allow racial inequality to diminish your calling in life. So we know that there's a lot of racial inequality in the world around us. What are 2 ways that you can face this head on and not allow it or the pressure of it to diminish your calling in life? And now I'm going to open this up. So we only get 2. So whoever would like to share, let's hear it from you. And then if anybody would like to add on, you can.
Well,
I would like to go.
Steve.
Okay. Dorsey Sr., and then we'll pop up to you, Steve.
All right, let Steve go. I saw Steve's hand.
Okay, go ahead, Steve.
I would just, because this summer has been really polarizing in general, but I think the simple answer is remembering where we derive our value from. That solves like 90% of the problem, because people can have these absurd trains of thought on us for the basis of our skin, which is crazy when you think about it. But when you remember, oh my goodness, we're all made from the same dust, it's kind of a great equalizer. Yeah. So just that we don't get our value from people's opinions. It's from the Lord. And that, yeah, it's pretty simple.
Ooh, that's good. That's good. Dorsey Sr.
No, I'm going to let LSD 2 go. I want to see what I taught them.
All right.
And I'm going to pass it right back to him because I wanted to hear.
No, son. Come on, son.
This one, it's interesting. You see so much, and there's so much that attempts to pull against you and undermine you. At my church the last couple of weeks, I was having trouble with placing just preaching America and prophecy in a way that we've done for years in the church. And I had to say, Lord, you've got to show me some sort of relevance, not just for faith believers, but for people that look like me. I need to see us in the prophetic eye so I can share that with others, so that when they hear these things can affect them, and they can see, we know the Lord watches over us. We know his eye is on the sparrow, but the way some things turn at times, there's a cry of how long. And
Yes.
So I think, as Steve mentioned, the idea that we're fearfully and wonderfully made, so it doesn't matter what any other human being may think or assume about you, is something to definitely keep in the focus. But just the fact of the historical perspective, and I can only speak from the African American lens, the historical perspective that we have, and the role that we played in history. Just a couple of weeks ago, I shared, if you don't mind, just a plug for what we're doing at the church. And in 1851, J.N. Andrews was the founder of Andrews University, or the namesake of Andrews University. He was the first individual on record that connected Revelation 13, America and prophecy, with being a hypocritical beast, because you're looking like the lamb, but you're speaking like the dragon.
Good.
And he made that connection with slavery. And he said, how dare we think to speak, to want to claim to look like Christ, but speak like the dragon, when we're treating a whole ethnicity the way we are. Ellen White, around that same time, had told fellow Adventists that we should not, speaking to the fellow church, we should not follow the rules of the land and returning slaves back to their masters. Because she described the fact that when the rules of man get in the way of our fidelity to God, we've got to choose God. And so with those things in mind, and presenting it, I was very excited, and other people were very excited to hear that the Lord has been looking out for us forever. So much so, you read Spirit of Prophecy, that he interceded in the Civil War. The prophetic visions that Ellen White was given just to find the land at Oakwood College. It's so many connections there. So then when you understand a history, and as Steve said, you want to be inclusive, you understand a history and you realize you've been represented all this time, then people can say things. It might frustrate you. It could disturb you. It may even will make you mad, but they can't take your place when God has a place for you.
Just because you wander doesn't mean you're not God's people, huh? That's oof, man. I like that prophecy bit, Lawrence. That was powerful. Absolutely powerful. Dorsey Sr., that leaves you with our final tip. Our final tip. Can you give us a tip on how to have a better free throw shot?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I think if you've seen any of my son and my grands play ball, they don't miss free throws.
Right.
There's one thing I've always told them. Free throws are free. Square up your shoulders. Look, they're laughing. Both of them are laughing. Visualize it. Shoot it off the tip of your finger. Line it up with that rim. And you're going to get nothing but net.
Splash.
My son was a killer. He had a Kobe killer instinct. You couldn't stop him.
No, not Kobe.
Yeah, son. Before, when I used to take him to the park, before I let him play, I would have him shoot around the world from all the spots that he could shoot from everywhere, all over the courts. Steve, man, Steve played ball. He was like the perfect workman. He just keep coming. Couldn't stop him. Christopher, well, he's a beast. He's 2 seconds from the NBA. And he is a big man that could shoot free throws. And Nicholas, he's about to rewrite AI's legacy. So all three of them will go to the Knicks for me, and I can have a championship since I haven't had since Steven was born in 1973.
There it is. Square up, visualize, straighten your elbow, get that shot
And,
in. That's
and repeat it. Free throws
and
are
repeat
free.
it. Free throws are free.
Correct.
Phenomenal. Those are your 3, 2, 1 practical tips that you can take away. And I actually, that basketball free throw one, it was really, really good, my friends. If you need some help, go there. This is the time, because nobody else will be on the basketball court but you. So you can get that. You can get that down nice and packed. I'm hanging out with 3 generations of Dorseys. We're talking about life, faith, race, and all of it right here. I want to thank them for coming on. I know that we are overtime right now. It's 5:03. I thank you for hanging out with us and keep pushing on. I do want to get to a few more things just because we started a little late, so we're going to run a little late just today. I know we don't normally do that, but hey, every day is a new day. We're going to do this time around. Is that all right, fellas?
That's fine.
Thank you for your
Good.
3, 2, 1. Okay, cool. We're going to go through a couple things. I want to talk about some generational things. Can you all think of what was the major issue during your era, during your generation? What do you think was like the major issue during your young adulthood life or in your generation? I want to start with Senior again. Then I want to move to Lawrence and then to Steve at the top. Senior, when you think about your life, what was the major
With me
thing that
coming
happened in your era?
I'm not a thoroughbred Adventist. I wasn't in the church. Coming up, the biggest thing that was going on was civil rights. And, you know, I was very active with that. I was very active with, I wasn't a Black Panther, but I worked with them. And that meant a lot to me. The Vietnam War at that time, it was a crisis for our country. It was a changing. You know, Jim Crow era was coming to an end. We saw bonding of the liberal whites. And not only liberal, but some of them were way left, you know, the SDS and some of those kind of guys. You know, I went to school that was integrated in Flushing, Queens, right behind Queens College, John Brown High School. And I built a lot of relationships with them. And that was, you know, that was a different time. You know, the 60s, watch it on CNN, the 60s were a different time. And when that transitioned to the church, in the early 70s, 1971, 72, you know, I saw that the only thing that could help the world was Christ. Because, you know, we had tried everything, the revolution, that wasn't working. You know, dropping out, as some of them did, hippies, flower power, that sure wasn't working. So, you know, anyway, read my book. Born to Preach.
Yeah, there it is.
That'll help you, okay?
Hey, Elder Dorsey, go ahead and just what's the name of your book? Let's put that out there right now, so everybody can hear.
Born to Preach.
Born to Preach.
Born to
Ladies
preach,
and gentlemen,
yeah.
is it on Amazon?
It's on Amazon. It's there.
It'll everybody jump on Amazon. Born to Preach. Check it out. It's not just about. It really is the whole story package in there, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it is. It'll even give you that update on what I was talking about earlier, that supernatural stuff, some of the things we've seen, and it's quite interesting, if I might say so myself.
Excellent. Now, Lawrence, I want to come to you.
Yeah,
you read it? Okay, look at you. All right, way to stay up with your heritage, man. Knowing your family lineage and their story. Now, I want to go to Lawrence. Lawrence, before I ask you for the situation in your era, the major event that happened during your young adulthood or during your generation, I do want to point out you are the pastor at the Altadena Seventh-day Adventist Church in Altadena. Is this correct?
Yes.
That's where you're at currently. And you guys have been doing something special at your church for the past forever weeks long. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is?
Well, it ended in December, but from about October to December, we were able to be the only free COVID testing site in the San Gabriel Valley. And the Lord blessed, where over 11,141 people came through our church campus with only an 8% positivity rate. And we were able to give out almost 4,000 gift bags that included the church name, church literature, church programs. We're working in unison with our communications department as we're revamping our website and building a church app to take advantage of those individuals that came through, and we've received countless cards and calls from the community thanking us for it. So many individuals in the community were able to connect with our food pantry, and they were very thankful for that, especially around Thanksgiving. And we have a prayer initiative going on still, where every department is responsible for praying for those 11,000 plus names who came through our church so that they can have an encounter with God somehow, preferably somehow coming back to us. But that's not really the point. We just want them to meet God for themselves and hope that they saw that kindness and compassion as they came to the church and formed those positive memory landmarks.
Can you tell us again the number of people that came through for testing at the Altadena
11,000, 11,141. Initially, the core company and the Young and Healthy company based in Pasadena, they felt that if we got 200 the first day, we'd be okay. And the first day, I believe we got a little over 400. And then it just picked up in such a way. We were featured just a hot spot, a little 30-second and a 30-second, 45-second spots 3 times on Channel 7 news. And it was definitely a blessing. I have so many stories of individuals I met and was able to talk to, because, we were basically hosting an event at our church where it was only about 4 or 5 church members there, but I tried to go every day and just be there to talk to. Speaking of intergenerational, my dad pastored Altadena Church, and there was a time I was there, and there was a man with his granddaughter, and they were getting tested, and he asked me, "Hey, do you know whatever happened to Pastor Dorsey?" And we've got masks on and stuff, so I started laughing.
Right here.
The easy thing for me to say was, he's right here, but I knew what he was talking about. I said, actually, he's still going strong, still preaching a ministry, still breaking down doors. Everything that you knew about him here, he's just doing at the University Seventh-day Adventist Church. I'm actually his son, and I just started here in April. I'm the COVID pastor, if you would, at Altadena. I've never preached inside the building since I became pastor, and he just thought that was amazing. And I got his information, and he was looking forward to coming back whenever we get a chance to open up. But we provided in a bag that he doesn't have to wait. Then he can tune in and worship with us in our online service. So it was truly a blessing.
So just for those of you watching along, Altadena became a testing site, the only free testing site in all of the San Gabriel Valley. Just think about what they're doing right there. It was a service for the community. Over 11,000 people came through. And if you can't quite visualize what that looks like, think about the Staples Center. To pack out a Lakers game, you're welcome, you guys. You're welcome. Yeah, Lakers game in the Staples Center. It's about 19,000 people. So just consider 8,000 less, but that's a pretty packed arena of human beings. That's how many people came through to get tested. I know this was kind of off subject, but I needed to point that out because there are important things happening that faith has given way to in action. And that's one of those. Lawrence, let me ask you, what is a grand event that's happened within your generation? What is something that you feel like, man, this was...
Now, just to clarify, we're talking about the church or just in general? No,
yeah, in the world. Mm-hmm.
Okay, 2 things. One, I believe it was my senior year in the high school, the Rodney King verdict. I know. Yes. I was living in New York at the time, but I was in Lower Manhattan when the riots started in Manhattan, my best friend and myself, and we were able to just, obviously the Lord's mercy, able to get right out before it got very destructive. And that left a profound memory mark with me. And then the second one that I would say worldwide would probably be the O.J. Simpson verdict, and seeing that in the television center, can't remember the name of the hall at Oakwood College, and the feelings that went when we heard that verdict. Those are 2 things that I can think of just right now that were pretty amazing.
Steve, I want to turn to you. What is something within your time, in your generation, that has been a marker of a major event?
I mean, I would say we're in it, and one just ended. Obviously, and again, uh, people's political preference, that is up to you. But the presidency of former person Donald J. Trump, that was quite generation defining. And then COVID, it's gonna take a decent amount of time for the full effects to like reverberate through everything, and we see how big of a scope it changed things. At least speaking from a student perspective, the freshman class that came in here like this year, they didn't have a senior year, and they didn't even have a regular freshman year at college. And then the freshmen coming in next year, they didn't have a senior year, and they're probably not going to have a regular freshman year. So you have a lot of missed memories for people. And then that's not even considering the amount of death that it has caused and the amount of suffering and just overall sadness it has put in the lives of many. So I would definitely, COVID and the presidency of Donald Trump.
Yeah. I think it's fair that those two would be major events in your generation. I ask this because in every generation, there are monumental events that take place, and the church needs to be able to identify what its divine prophetic voice is going to look like in these times. It's obvious to me that God and faith has carried each of you through and helped you thrive in your time and generation. But we need to be clear that the church has to be participatory in speaking life and justice and equality in every generation, because in every generation there will come a testing event or events or things that happen by which you and I will be accountable as God's hands and feet in this world to make a difference. We're going to close out because we're way over time, but I can't help and take one more question, and then we'll do a couple things and we'll finish. But Dorsey Senior, yes, please share, bro.
I just want to say this. I think right now we're living in a very dangerous time that I haven't seen since I was young. I mean, I saw Kennedy get assassinated. I saw Martin Luther King get assassinated. I saw Robert Kennedy get assassinated. I saw Malcolm X get assassinated. Anybody that stood up and had a voice that was speaking for those who are downtrodden, those who were poor, those who were being held down with discrimination and social injustice, we saw that there was a violent act assassinating high-profile people, and that doesn't even take into consideration all of the other people that were killed. Medgar Evers, I mean, just so many other people that were standing up for right. And we're in that era now. When we see what happened on January 6th, where people, because they didn't like the results, because they believed the lie, whosoever liveth and believeth the lie, loveth and believeth the lie. There's a place real hot, not Texas, for people who loveth and liveth a lie, okay? And these folks holding on to that lie, and people who won't stand up for truth in the Senate, and the number one threat in America is the alt-right, and we're talking about even this evangelicals who have this spirit of white supremacy undermining or underlining their theology. I don't want to take you there, but it's a dangerous time in which we live.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And what we know, what prophecy says about our time and our country, we can see how it can happen overnight. And as Bugs Bunny used to say, that's all, folks.
That's all, folks. Somebody's going to have to explain that to Steve later. He may not know who Bugs Bunny is.
Oh, my goodness. I love Looney Tunes. Space Jam. Come on, Hickeys. Come on.
I'm just playing, young buck. I'm just playing. I want to do this. We didn't play last week either. I'm going to play this week, and then we're going to close out. We're going to play the Love One, Leave One game. So, Pono, would you take us to Love One, Leave One? Gentlemen, this game here, I'm going to invite you, if you're still with us, to play along. It's a game. And the game works this way. I'm going to give you two things. You have to love one, and whatever you choose to love, the other thing gets disappeared. Whatever you choose to love, we can all enjoy as human beings for the rest of our lives until eternity. Whatever you choose not to love, that thing disappears from existence forever, never to be used by anyone again. Does that make sense? Real simple. So I'll give you two options. You have to say, love this. And we know that means you're going to leave this other thing. And whatever that thing is, no one can ever use it again. No pressure, but pressure. All right, you guys ready?
Let's do it.
Oh yeah.
If you're watching along from home, feel free to play. You know how we do it. You know, those of you who've been watching, we just type in the answer. Just click, type in an answer, and drop it into our comments. This is 1.5 minutes long, so you don't have much time to think about it, my friends. Just blurt out your answer, and we're gonna keep pushing. All right, Pono, if you're ready, let's get that timer up. 3, 2, 1. Let's go. 1.5 minutes. Lakers or Knicks?
Knicks, obviously.
Knicks.
Obviously. Come on, man.
Home cooked meal or fancy dining?
Home.
Fancy
Home
dining.
Preaching a mediocre sermon or listening to a bad sermon?
Oh man.
I don't even know what a mediocre
Come on.
sermon, what preaching a
I
mediocre
don't
sermon
either,
is.
son. We don't do that.
Okay. An amazing appetizer or mind-blowing dessert?
Mind-blowing dessert.
Mind-blowing dessert. Hands down.
Dessert.
All right. Root beer or ginger beer?
Oh man.
Root beer. I'm gonna go root beer.
I'll take ginger.
Yeah, root beer. Root beer.
Snickers or Reese's Pieces?
Snickers.
Reese's Pieces.
People still eat peanut butter?
Oh my goodness.
Board games or video games?
Video games.
Video.
I'm biased.
Video games.
Oh, okay. I didn't see Pono's timer up there, but I'm guessing our time's up. Because you guys took your time. You took too much time thinking about it, guys.
Come on.
You got to just be like, bam, bam. Okay. We're gonna close out here now. And this is how I close out every one of our Tuesday Tea Times. By the way, thank you for coming on. And thanks, everybody, for hanging with us. I know we went longer this time around, but, you know, we had to fix some stuff. And it's just really good to talk to these gentlemen and listen to their generational story, how they've related to faith and the gospel, and how it translates to passing on a healthy faith to the next generation. I want to close this way. I want to ask you to share just a couple sentences here at the end to encourage those who might be watching along. Maybe that teenager, that young adult, maybe someone who's just getting married or just having a baby, and they're catching on into our cast, and they're watching this, and they need to remember that God is still walking with them. So I want to ask each of you to just give us a couple sentences here to inspire those watching along with us. I want to start, as I always do, with Lawrence, and then Dorsey Sr., and then Steve. I want to close out with you, if that's all right.
Sounds good.
All right.
Sounds great. Just want to be inspiring. I want them to know, just like I remind myself all the time, that God is definitely in control and he loves you. I was sharing with my church, Psalm 46. God is our refuge and our strength, a very present help in trouble. I was going to use it as my pillar text for the year. He is my refuge. So when I'm hurting, he's going to protect me when I'm hurt. And then he's my strength. So he's going to fight for me so my hurt doesn't hurt someone else. Let him do the battle. And he's going to do that presently for me. And I think that we need to understand that, because there are people hurting, and there are people that need refuge, and there are people that need present day help. And so that's what I would share with them.
Awesome. Thank you, Lawrence Dorsey II. That was powerful. Okay, Dorsey Sr.
Okay, I'd like to just leave them with something that I use every day, and that's Proverbs chapter 3, Verse 5. Trust in the Lord with all thy heart, and lean not to thy own your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he'll direct your path. And if you can just have that peace to trust God, he will lead you where you need to go, and he'll keep you through any situation. And again, like I said, when I was going through that cancer time, something totally different. You know, being a vegetarian 46 years, you figure you would never ever get cancer. You know, that SDA swag. And then that thing pops up on you, and you're like, what? How? You know, I'm totally healthy, and then this pops up. So you just got to just trust the Lord, and the Lord will take you through. And he did.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for that. Thank you so much. Steve, close us out, man.
Take us home, Steve.
If I could
take us home, baby.
Whoa. If I could say one thing in all honesty, I would say it starts with us, and that it can be anything from change, acceptance, inclusivity, all the things we talked about, but we have to be the change we want to see in the world. And that starts with our sphere of influence. And then we just have good days after good days. And you got to live the best day you can with the Lord. Just start with winning a day, and then the rest, it takes care of itself. But whatever you want that change to be in the world, like it starts with us. It starts in here. That is all.
Wow. Thank you, Steve. Very well put. And I want to thank all of you for rolling with us. Again, we are closing out today at 5:24. That's a new world record for us at Tuesday Tea Time. But it was all worth it. We got all the technical stuff going, and we were able to hear each other and hear the stories of the generations. I want to thank our peoples who came with us today. Thank you so much. Lawrence S. Dorsey Sr., Lawrence Dorsey II, and of course, Steve Dorsey III. You guys are amazing human beings. I count it a privilege to be a friend and a fellow minister in the field. And I pray that God continues to use you guys in powerful ways. To all of you, my peoples, for watching along, I want to thank you for your time today. I want you to hang in there, be blessed, be your best this week. Stay safe while we are going through this season. I'll see you next Tuesday, where we're going to be hanging out with the author of a 5-star book on Amazon, Manners from the Moon, Simeon Shig. It's going to be a lot of fun. Join us then. We'll see you. Till everybody else, God bless you. Be safe. All our love. Thanks, guys. You guys were awesome today.
Amen. Bye-bye.
All right.
We out.